Hey yo, I'm back with another video, and this is going to be a long ace video. UFC Trio 10, Kai Asakura versus Alexandre Pantoja. And before I start today's video, please subscribe to my channel and also watch this video at 2x speed. Okay, let us start. We're going to start from the early prelims, and then we're going to move on to the main card. The first fight, Kennedy Nejichuku is going to fight against Lucas Brzezinski. I have no idea about who Lucas Brzezinski is. I have never seen him fight. So I'm going to go with Kennedy Nejichuku, even though Kennedy Nejichuku is also not really a great fighter, but I think he's better than Lucas Brzezinski because he did knock out his opponent in this last fight, I believe. And yeah, they're big boys, 6'5", 6'4", really big boys. Okay, Clay Guida, the man with probably the most losses in his record in UFC. He's going to fight against Ben Askren's young son, Chase Hooper. At one point of time, Chase Hooper was, I believe, the youngest fighter in UFC. Currently, he's 25 years old. 2 months, 25 years, 2 months, and 3 weeks, 3 days. So he's a very, very, very young fellow. He's 6'1". Clay Guida is 5'7". Chase Hooper recently has been looking really good, and he has choked out Clay Guida in a submission grappling event, if I'm not mistaken. So I think Chase Hooper can do the same thing in UFC as well. But then again, when punches are involved, it's a whole different ball game. But I'm still going to go with Chase Hooper, probably by a unanimous decision. I haven't seen his record in a long, long time. Uh, he lost to Aljamain Sterling in a grappling match. Apart from that, he hasn't lost in a long time. His last loss was in 2022, October 29. He lost against Steve Garcia. Left hooks, ground and pound punches. And he lost to Renato Moicano, but then again, that's a grappling match. So Steven Peterson. So recently, since 2022, he has fought 3 times, 4 times. Clay Guida, no, again, those are not fights, but he has fought 3 times. Nick Ford, Jordan Levitt, and Vyacheslav Prochachev. So I'm going to go with Chase Hooper by a unanimous decision. I think he should do it. Okay, Michael Chiesa. I don't know why he's still fighting. He's fighting against Max Payne Griffin. I genuinely think they're both really both really bad fighters, and they both do not deserve to be in UFC, especially Michael Chiesa. I do not understand why he's still in UFC. His last win was against Tony Ferguson. Then prior to that, he was in a really big uh, break, and he lost to pretty much everybody. He lost to Kevin Holland. He lost to, I don't know, RDA. He has lost to almost everybody. And I still remember Don't Talk About My Mama thing that he had with against Kevin Lee. And both their careers have gone downhill. So I'm going to go with probably Max Griffin because he has more wins than Chiesa in the last couple of years. He's 39 years old. I don't know how old is Chiesa. He's probably 39 as well. He's pretty old. He's 36. Okay, Chiesa is younger than Max Griffin. So this is going to be a toss-up. So I just generally don't care who wins this fight. Cody Durden versus Joshua Van. Now, this fight, I think, holds more of a more weight than the previous fight because Joshua Van is an up-and-comer. He lost one fight. I don't know how many fights he has had in the UFC because I've been seeing him. He has had a couple of fights. His last UFC fight was against Edgar Chairez, which he won by unanimous decision. Against Cody Durden, I have no idea about Cody Durden. I've never really seen him fight. Neither have I seen Joshua Van fight, but I've seen Joshua Van in interviews and I don't know where. So, Cody Durden, he is 5'7". Joshua Van is 5'3", 5'4". He's really small for the flyweight division as well. I don't know who's going to win this fight, but I'm going to go and I'm just going to go and say Joshua Van, just out of fun, but I don't know. Chris Weidman versus Eric Anders. Chris Weidman, I don't know why he does not retire. He probably wants to retire with a lot of CTE. In his last fight, he did win against Bruno Silva. Then there is Eric Anders. I don't know who out of these two is a better fighter because Chris Weidman, again, in his prime, Chris Weidman was miles ahead of Eric Anders. I mean, Chris Weidman definitely defeated Anderson Silva. The dude was a former UFC middleweight champion. And so I think he can win this fight. As far as Eric Anders is concerned, he also won his last fight. And they kind of have like similar record at this point of time, 16-7, 16-8. I'm going to go with Chris Weidman just because he's a former champion. I think he has that. Probably he should retire after the win. All right. I don't think he can ever become a champion again, especially with the talent that we have in the middleweight division right now. Randy Brown versus Brian Battle. I'm going to go with Brian Battle probably by a unanimous decision. This will be like Brian Battle will get hurt. He'll get hurt on the feet, then he'll take the fight to the ground, and then finally he'll find a way to win by either a unanimous decision or probably by ground and pound. But Randy Brown, his last loss was against, I believe, Jack Della Maddalena, and JDM is no slouch. He's one of the best contenders that we have in UFC. Yep, he lost to JDM by rear naked choke. But if you're getting RNC'd by JDM, JDM is not exactly a grappler. He has good defensive grappling, but he's not a grappler. So if JDM is grappling with you, there is something that Brian Battle needs to do. He needs to take down Randy Brown and choke him out. All right. So I'm going to go with Brian Battle by a unanimous decision. Now this fight, I'm really interested in this fight. I think Movsar Evloev, he's going to win this by unanimous decision. Movsar Evloev versus Aljamain Sterling. Aljamain Sterling is a good grappler. He's a good, again, funk master, has some funky grappling, trains with Morab. But I don't think he's good enough to fight against Movsar Evloev. I think Evloev is much younger. He is physically more strong. He's 30 years old only, and he has 18 wins. I think Movsar Evloev, he is much younger. I'm genuinely think he has better pressure than also his submission grappling, like his defensive grappling. He has never been submitted. He has never lost a fight. So I think Movsar Evloev is going to find a way to take this fight to the ground. I think he's a better striker than also because he did have some good moments with Diego Lopez in that fight, and of course, Diego Lopez was able to put him in a submission, but I think his submission defense has grown. His ability to defend submissions, his ability to defend and do well in scrambles has improved since then. And he's training in American top team against. They've got a lot of killers in there. They've got Renato Moicano, they've got Arman Sarukian, and all of these people in there. So I think they're going to do well. I'm going to go with Movsar Evloev by a unanimous decision. Vicente Luque versus Themba Gorimbo. I genuinely do not care about this fight, so I'm not going to pick anybody. Anthony Smith versus Dominic Reyes. Anthony Smith, arguably the greatest fighter of all time on paper. Anthony Smith, Lionheart Smith. Who gave him the name Lionheart? I mean, that is what TJ Dillashaw said about Anthony Smith. His last fight, he lost against Roman Dolidze, whereas Dominic Reyes, he was in a really long losing streak. And then he won against Dustin Jacoby. Again, Dustin Jacoby is not exactly a great fighter. I think Roman Dolidze is a much better fighter, much more skilled than Dominic Reyes. Yeah, not exactly better skilled than Dominic Reyes, but he's, I think, a better skilled fighter than Dustin Jacoby for sure. So I'm going to go with Anthony Smith to take this one, probably by a boring unanimous decision. I just do not have full trust on Dominic Reyes yet. Even though he did knock out Dustin Jacoby, but still I don't really trust him that much to defeat Anthony Smith. Okay, the main card, Doo-Ho Choi, the Korean Superboy. He had my favorite fight of all time, one of the favorite fights, if not the best fight of all time. Doo-Ho Choi versus versus Cub Swanson. That is a legendary fight. That is one of the best fights ever to take place in UFC. But after that fight, his career kind of went downhill. Then after that, I think he also went to serve in the military. He's only 33 years old, he's very young. I think that fight was like 10 years back or something. When was that fight? His fight against Cub Swanson. Yes, that was in 2016. And then he fought again in 2018 and then 19, and then of course he came back in 2024. So 2016, so 8 years back, 33 minus 8 would be 25. So he was only 25, 24 years old at that point of time. So to see this man, his career go downhill is really bad. He used to have a lot of power in his hands, but after that fight, we did not even see him do well. He lost to Jeremy Stephens, of course. Jeremy Stephens is no joke. Charles Jourdain. Yeah, how do you lose to Charles Jourdain, man, and he was on a really good winning streak prior to that, but it is what it is, man. I don't know who's going to win this one, but I'm going to go with Nate the Landwehr. Nate the Train. Yeah, Nate the Train, I think he's going to win this, probably again by a unanimous decision. Even though he's like 36 years old, but he always brings his A game. The dude is tough. He's tough as nails. He did not get finished by Dan Ige. He did defeat Jamal Amers and Austin Lingo. I have seen, I think, one of his last fights. Probably this Yeah, probably his fight with Danny Gay. The dude is like he's tough. He's tough. He brings the fight, and he's an interesting fighter, an exciting fighter. So I'm gonna go with Nate the Train by a unanimous decision. Bryce Mitchell versus Kron Gracie. I want to go on a so bad rant against about this fight, but I think they're giving this fight to Bryce Mitchell so that he can make a big name out of himself by defeating Kron Gracie by submitting him. I don't think he can submit Kron Gracie. I don't think people can submit Kron Gracie that easily. But I think Bryce Mitchell can knock him out. I also think Bryce Mitchell can defeat him by a lot of ground and pound. But then again, going to the ground with Kron Gracie is not a great idea. That dude literally breeds jiu-jitsu. And he's also ranked 106. And Bryce Mitchell is ranked 13. If Kron Gracie managed to somehow defeat Bryce Mitchell in this fight, this will be the biggest upset in the UFC history, in my opinion. Because Kron Gracie is shit. He's a shitty MMA fighter. When it comes to his jiu-jitsu, he's really good. But I think Bryce Mitchell is going to win this probably by a unanimous decision on the feet. If it goes to the ground, I mean, Bryce Mitchell is a better wrestler. He's a better MMA grappler. But I still think if the fight goes to the ground, then Kron Gracie will somehow like grappling with Kron Gracie on the mat is not exactly a good idea in my opinion. If it goes to the canvas, then I think Kron Gracie might find a way to submit him. But I think Bryce Mitchell, with all the stupidity that he says, they're both really interesting human beings. They both think that the art is flat. They both are tinfoil hat guys. But you never know with all the things that are coming up. You never know. Maybe they're right. We're wrong. Who knows? So I'm going to go with Bryce Mitchell, probably by a unanimous decision. Cyril Gane, Bongamin versus Alexander Volkov. I'm going to go with Cyril Gane, probably by a technical unanimous decision. I think they both fought, right? Did they fight before? I need to check Gane's record. He hasn't been fighting in a long term. I think his last fight was again in 2023 September. He hasn't fought in a year. Not exactly that big of a break, especially considering the heavyweight division. He did lose to John Jones by guillotine choke. Then prior to that, he defeated Taito Iwasa. He lost against Francis Ngannou. Yeah, he did defeat Alexander Volkov. I think, yeah. So I think he's going to win this again by unanimous decision. I think Volkov is a good fighter, but I don't know if he has actually improved. He did defeat who did he defeat? The other Russian guy. Yeah, Sergey Pavlovich. He did defeat Sergey Pavlovich, the white Ngannou, but I don't know. He is a good fighter, but I don't think he's as technical as Bongamin. I think Cyril Gane on the feet is very, very, very technical. It is his biggest weak point, his biggest weakness is going to be his wrestling. If Alexander Volkov finds a way to wrestle in this fight and grapple in this fight, then I can see him win this by unanimous decision. But that is very highly unlikely of Drago because Volkov has knockout power, has always been a good striker. But I think Cyril Gane is going to win this probably by unanimous decision. A lot of kicks, a lot of jabs. That is how he's going to win, basically by point fighting. Ooh, the co-main event, the people's main event, Shavkat Rakhmonov versus Ian the Machado Garry, the future, versus the Nomad, the man who has finished everyone versus the man who has seen everyone finish in front of him, if you know what I mean. Too many finishes. Both these gentlemen has seen a lot of finishes. Shavkat in the ring, Machado in his bed. Okay, that is a little too much, but I don't like to make that many jokes, to be honest. I like Ian Garry, man. I like Ian Garry, especially for the fact that he has the balls, he has the guts, he has the courage to fight against Shavkat Rakhmonov. I've never seen anybody call out Shavkat Rakhmonov a lot, right? Ian Garry, he did that. He has taken this fight. I don't know if this fight is probably in short notice or what. And I think this might be a close fight depending on how they both approach this fight and how good Ian Garry's grappling is. If Shavkat Rakhmonov decides to keep the fight on the feet, I think he might get punched. Like he will take a lot of punches. Can Ian Garry knock him out with one clean shot? That'll be difficult, but that can happen. Anything can happen in a fight. But Shavkat has taken a lot of punches to his head from Jeff Neal. And Jeff Neal, I think he hits harder than Ian Garry at that point of time. But on the feet, I think Garry will be really fast. But I think as far as grappling is concerned, I think Shavkat Rakhmonov is going to be a much, much, much better grappler than Ian Garry. So I think Shavkat Rakhmonov should grapple in this fight. Completely grapple. He should fight the same fight like he did against Stephen Wonderboy Thompson. Basically take the fight to the ground and win this probably by a submission. But I don't see him submitting. I think he's going to win this probably by a fourth round finish. That is either a ground and pound or maybe a choke out, maybe a choke in, I think, an RNC or maybe a guillotine. I don't think he's going to go for a guillotine. Maybe he will. Who knows? Ian Garry does have a long neck, so I think that can help Shavkat get a submission in there. So I'm going to go with Shavkat Rakhmonov either by unanimous decision or maybe a fourth round finish. Okay, Alexandre Pantoja versus Kai Asakura. Um, Look, Kai Asakura, he's good. I've seen his knockouts, I've seen his highlights, but he's not a grappler. I don't know his grappling, how good his grappling is. And versus Alexandre Pantoja and also Kai Asakura, he's really good with his knees to the head and soccer kicks, and basically the rule set is going to be against Kai Asakura. So I'm going to go with Alexandre Pantoja. I think he's going to win this fight by a dominant unanimous decision, or maybe he can submit Kai Asakura probably in round 3 or 4, or maybe round 4 or 5. I think that will be more accurate because Alexandre Pantoja, he has a lot of gas. Basically, he's a weird fighter. He whenever he hits you really hard, and then he takes a break, and then again he comes back, and again he hits you, he takes a break. That is how he fights. And Pantoja has a really good chin, and he's physically really strong for the flyweight division, except for people like maybe someone like I don't know, Davison Figueredo. He did beat Pantoja up, and apart from that, I don't know if anybody has been able to defeat him fair square. I think was it DJ that defeated him? I think maybe DJ defeated him. I don't know. His record is pretty good, to be honest. Yeah, 25, 28, and 5. So he has been fighting for a very long time. He lost to Askar Askarov. That was a decision loss. And apart from that, he lost to Davison Figueredo and Dustin Ortiz, which was in 2018. When he made his debut in 2017. So he's on a crazy winning streak. Look at his record. He's on a 6-fight winning streak. He defeated Manel Kape, Brandon Royval, Alex Perez, again, rear naked choke, Brandon Moreno. Brandon Royval, again, Steve Arceg defeated him by unanimous decision. And Kai Asakura, I think he's going to defeat Kai Asakura either by unanimous decision. I think Pantoja's grappling will be too much for Asakura to deal with it. So I think he'll have a lot of problem dealing with Pantoja's grappling, his pressure, the way whenever Pantoja is in danger, he shoots for a takedown and he puts his opponent on the ground. That's all he does. He does not really do a lot of damage on the ground. He does throw. He does more than Merab. He definitely does more than Merab, but he does not do whatever Hanato Moicano does on the ground. So I can see him winning this by a unanimous decision. Also, Kai Asakura, I think, fights at bantamweight, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, he's ranked number 46 in bantamweight worldwide. So also he's going to be cutting a lot of weight to make to the flyweight limit. That is 125 pounds. He mostly fights in the bantamweight division, so it does not really make a lot of sense in my opinion. That is 133. So yeah, he will be cutting some weight, not a lot. And he's a striker, and his style is a lot dependent on throwing a lot of knees. Whenever his opponents are trying to go for takedowns and all, he tries to throw a lot of knees, a lot of soccer kicks, from whatever I've seen. So I'm going to go with Alexandre Pantoja. It just does not make any sense for me to pick someone this is going to be his first fight. Also, I want Kai Asakura to win. I genuinely want Kai Asakura to win. I want to see a Japanese champion. I want to see more fighters from Japan. I think they can do really well because look at the Olympic wrestling. The younger weight classes, like the smaller weight classes, are all dominated by Japanese fighters, are all dominated by Japanese wrestlers. Look at the boxing. Naoya Inoue, the monster, he's a boxer. There are so many good boxers in the lighter weight classes who are from Japan. The same thing goes with wrestling. The same thing goes with judo. These lighter weight classes are consistently dominated by Japanese fighters and wrestlers and boxers and everybody. So I think Kai Asakura can do it, but is he ready to defeat Pantoja in his first fight in UFC? I don't think so. So I'm gonna go with Alexandre Pantoja by a unanimous decision. Okay, I'm gonna repeat all my picks. Kennedy Nejusuku versus Lucas Brzezinski. Kennedy Nejusuku by a knockout. Clay Guida versus Chase Hooper. I'm going to go with Chase Hooper probably by unanimous decision. Max Griffin versus Michael Case. I don't care. Cody Durden, Joshua Van. I'm going to go with Joshua Van by a unanimous decision. Chris Weidman versus Eric Condors. Again, Chris Weidman, unanimous decision. Randy Brown versus Brian Battle. Brian Battle by unanimous decision. Ground and pound. Movsar Evloev, Aljamain Sterling. Movsar Evloev by a unanimous decision. Vicente Luque and Temba Koribo. I don't care. Anthony Smith, Dominic Reyes. Anthony Smith by unanimous decision. Nate Landwehr versus Du Ho Choi. I'm going to go with Nate Landwehr. I think this is going to be a unanimous decision. Bryce Mitchell, Kron Gracie, Bryce Mitchell by unanimous decision, or maybe a finish. Maybe a TKO. Cyril Gane versus. I mean, Kron Gracie has never been finished. But then again, Bryce Mitchell is going to be the best fighter he fights. So it'll be interesting. Cyril Gane versus Alexander Volkov. I'm going to go with Cyril Gane, unanimous decision. Shavkat Rakhmonov versus Ian the Machado Garry. I'm going to go with Shavkat Rakhmonov by unanimous decision. Alexandre Pantoja versus Kai Asakura. I'm going to go with Alexandre Pantoja by a submission in round 4. Yeah, that's it. That's it. That's my pick for UFC 310. And you guys can write me in the comment section if you agree with my picks or not. And also, please subscribe to my channel. I've got very few subscribers. If you enjoyed the video, then drop a like and also share this video to your friends and family. Peace out.